Desagu, a huge content creator. We all know him from his very funny skits, and he honestly, truly is one of those talented people. Like the likes and even maybe even more of like Crazy Kenna and I forget his other like comedians who create really funny skits which are very entertaining and relatable to most of us. Now, Mr. Henry Desagu had been away for a while and we're like, where has he been? And usually you forget about someone until they reintroduce themselves and you're like, wait, oh, where have you been? But they haven't seen you in so long. And so he came out to clarify what has happened, why he's been away. And according to him, he says that the reason why he stepped out from creating content is because he started to realize that there are so many content creators popping up everywhere, including on TikTok, and he actually realized that unless he changes his game, unless he takes back some time and actually re-strategizes and restructures how his career is charting, he may not necessarily be doing the right thing for himself. And in his own words, he said that in 6 years, when you're at the top, you need to take rest. After 6 years, sometimes you take a break to reorganize your thoughts and observe how the industry is changing. With TikTok emerging and everyone creating content, you need to rebrand yourself. And he actually said that after doing content creation for 6 years, he needed to have a meeting with himself, needed to sit down with himself and see if the strategies that he'd been using are effective and what else he can do. Ultimately, he says the whole purpose of creating content is to make money, and therefore he needed to sit back and relax and figure out what's happening. But he says ultimately, simply because he's been away from the industry for a bit doesn't mean that he's not been working on things. He says he's been working on NGOs or with NGOs, and additionally he's also part of a digital marketing and consultancy space right now. So that's where he's working, that's what he's doing. And he says, I need to think about new developments. And I really understand where Henry Desagu is coming from, because if we're being entirely honest, the landscape of entertainment and content creation has significantly changed. And you realize that once you see someone like Aziad, who's completely rebranded herself, she was once a TikToker, now she's a radio presenter, has her own talent agency. Well, is it a talent agency or it's like a digital agency where they educate digital creators and stuff like that? It's crazy to see that transition. She's now getting into other projects as well, and it's beautiful to see branding, marketing, all these other brands coming along and creating her own kind of creations of work, like bags, I think, with a brand recently. What you see someone like Kate Actress, who had been an actress for a long time, still is an actress, and you see her getting into government and policy. You see her actually going out there in the world and creating new opportunities along with other people. Like, everyone's doing something different. You see people like the other radio presenters we've seen, like Kamenegoro, who's now going from one station to another, just trying to find that whatever she's looking for. It seems like everyone is trying to strategize and get into a different space where they feel more satisfied and which is working in their favor at that moment in time in their life, which is a beautiful thing. Life is changing quickly. These days, trending on TikTok or Instagram doesn't necessarily make a difference unless it is consistent and money is coming out of it. So I feel like him re-strategizing and rebranding is a good thing. However, one thing I do not recommend is just leaving altogether. Re-strategize while you are in it, because what you create is data. It gives you data of, yeah, this is working, this is not. Look at what other people are creating as well. Try and, tap into that kind of energy and see where it goes. But like, once you leave, people forget you really quickly these days.
And the thing with creatives, sometimes when you've done something over and over and over again and it's become redundant and you no longer find joy in it, with creatives, you just go into the negative space. You just become very depressed about everything you're putting out, and you're not proud of it, and you're just in that I understand where he's at. You're like, this is not making sense anymore. Is money coming in? Am I, is this what I'm going to be doing for 10 years? You have all of these questions and it's just hanging over you. So it can be very overwhelming. And I saw this conversation with Joy Candy where she said for the longest time, like for like 3-6 months, she just felt like what she was putting out was not sparking joy for her anymore. And it got to a point where she had to go for professional therapy in order to just realign and figure out, what exactly am I doing? Is this making me happy? Why are the things that used to make me so happy no longer bringing joy again. And lately she's been coming up, she's been saying, I'm back, I feel more creative, I feel more productive with what I'm doing, I'm no longer in that negative space. So it's just a thing that happens with all creatives. You're not alone, but the solution is not just disappearing. You disappear from the face of the earth, it is so difficult for you to come back, especially if you're rebranding and you're coming back as a slightly different version of what we were used to. It can be very difficult to come back. Have you not seen artists who went dead for a while and then they try to come back and you're like, oh, you used to be so great back in the day. And then, you know, your content these days is just not hitting home. It's because we've forgotten about you. And the joy with like an audience is just seeing you progress organically. They want to be a part of the journey. We want to see you progressing from this to this to this. That's why we feel part of the journey. But ukipotea tu, and then you come back, you're like, hello, did you miss me? We're like, okay, where were you? We feel like you owe us a story. Get on Lingugi and tell us what was happening. Anyway, we wish all the best of luck to you, and we hope everything works out.